I'm just spending every day sitting in the grief as much as I can, having lost Jennifer. While we weren't married, legally, she was my wife. We called each other husband and wife. It's not for lack of trying. We were engaged, obviously. We tried to get married several times. Every time we planned something, she'd end up in the hospital. We looked at wedding chapels down in Galveston, Texas. We were at MD Anderson, and we were close by Galveston. I always had the dream of getting married on a beach somewhere. Maybe it's cliche. I always liked the beach. She just wanted to be married to me. I really regret not getting that done. Some days I have good days, and some days I have bad days. I'm having a relatively good day today. She passed away almost 2 months ago now. It's the 5th of July. She passed on the 7th of May. And those first few weeks are just a blur. I was in physical pain the whole time. It felt like my body was like I had been hit, in a car accident. If you've ever been in a car accident, not a severe one necessarily, but enough of one, fender bender, where your body's for the next 4 or 5 days because of the impact and that thing. Or it's like going back to the gym after a while, you're sore for a few days afterward. It's more like the car wreck. It's more like your whole body was just wrecked. I went to the doctor and got muscle relaxers, and I was doing self-hypnosis, which helped actually quite a bit. I was able to relax my body to some extent. But when I did the research on it, my nervous system was probably so on fire from taking care of Jen for a year and a half, almost 2 years. It really started in August of 24 when her appendix burst, probably because of the cancer changing her physiology in her body. That was a bad week we had. And then a month later, she was diagnosed with sinonasal cancer that eventually moved us to Texas, which finally got caught up to her 2 months ago. And it was just like being in a car wreck. My whole body was sore, and there's nothing I could do about it. I was walking, I exercised, I bought a bicycle and rode that. Really hot these last couple weeks, so I haven't been able to go out and exercise very much. I have to ride the elliptical machine I have upstairs. I have to get back into shape too, because I sat in the apartment with her the whole time. I'd go for short walks with the dogs, but I didn't want to leave her. I had always had cameras on her. I always had security cameras. So if I was out of the house for some reason because I was at the grocery store or something, I could always check in with her and talk to her through the camera and call her and stuff. We were always in communication with each other. I generally left the house when she was asleep, and I felt like I could. That was usually for just errands and stuff. But my body, according to the stuff I've read and watched on YouTube, was probably in such high tension that she passed. The start of the day after she passed, it was like my whole body was just in this sort of just painful. And it still comes back from time to time. It's not as bad as it was. I think the exercising has helped. I want to lose weight, obviously, because I sat around and ate sugar the whole time while I was there. Weight kept me going, drank coffee, and ate a lot of sugar. And she ate a lot of sugar because that was all she could eat. It's all she could taste. The radiation had burned her taste buds so bad. So, sitting in the grief. When my dad died 20 years ago, I'm going to be 49 here shortly. My dad died when I was 21 years old. So he died years ago this year. He died in April of 99. And did not handle the grief well. I drank too much. I partied too much. I didn't want to face any of the things that I was facing. I didn't want to deal with it at all. I just wanted to get away from the pain. And it took me a long time to deal with my dad's passing, which I don't know if I really ever did until maybe even 10 or 15 years after he died. Maybe even recently. I would say that maybe once I got healthier mentally and left the priesthood and stuff like that, I think I came to terms with it a lot more after I left. You hear my dog walking around here in the background. I don't want to do that this time. I read a lot of Stoicism. It helps me out. And there's this phrase great phrase by Marcus Aurelius, the obstacle is the way. And what that means is, I've been really pondering that quite a bit, is our journey on our road, we reach obstacles. Sometimes they're created by us, sometimes they're given to us, sometimes we come across them. And it's those obstacles that become the way that we become better people. And I was pointed out by a friend this morning. I was talking to her about it on chat this morning, some friend of mine I went to high school with. Almost every religion in some way tries to understand suffering. And we were talking about all the different religions in the world. Of course, my background is not that I've been out of the church for 8 years now, but the lessons that I learned there are still valid lessons. It's that the crosses turn into resurrections. And it's another way of saying the obstacle is the way. And one of the things that they said is to embrace the pain. I talked to another friend today who was actually in Europe, and one of the things they told me is don't be masochistic about it. Don't inflict suffering for the sake of suffering. That's good too. I think you can I think a lot of people do that, actually. I think a lot of people they identify with their suffering. Like, this is who I am. I am a suffering being, and I'm a victim. And I'm not saying that people aren't victims, but that's their identity, is that sort of. And I was reading I read this sort of old spiritual book that I read when I was a priest. It's called Spiritual Combat. I'm reading it again, even though it's such a good book. It was written in the 16th century by a priest who actually had been out of the priesthood for some time. So I didn't know that for a while, but I really like it. And one of the things he said in the book today was, don't just suffer for suffering's sake. If it's not building up something, then it's your soul, then it's really not doing anybody any good. It's vanity is actually what he said. If you don't suffer in humility, it's not really doing any good. So it's a lot going on in my head with this time around. Instead of my dad, and this is far, I love my dad. I had a great dad. Very lucky to have a good dad. He loved me very much. I avoided the suffering. And in this grief, I'm embracing it, even though it hurts either way. And in some ways, I wonder, I didn't know when I was 21. I'm 27 years older than I was back then. I didn't know what I didn't know. And so I can't judge that version of myself too harshly. I ran from the grief. I ran from the pain. I ran from the suffering. And Mark Manson, who's a great author, The Subtle Art of Not Giving It an F, I will just make it an F. It's a great book. I've read it a few times. One of the things he said in there is the avoidance of his pain, the avoidance of his suffering. And I will say that, like I said, I've grown so much. I know so much more. I've studied so many things. I've dealt with so many people than I did, more so than I did when I was 21, that I understand that when we try to avoid the pain, it just prolongs it. I had headlong into the suffering of the grief of my father. Would it have taken me 15 years? I don't think so. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm having a good day today, so I was having rough days. If you watch yesterday's video, I was having a rough time, and I'll have rough days again. I'm emotional and weepy. Anytime I tell that about Jennifer, I get that way. I'm still processing it. And when the emotions come, I let them come, but I'm not going to be masochistic about it, as my friend suggested. I'm not going to just suffer. I'm not going to be that guy who says, woe is me, look how much I'm suffering. In fact, I do the opposite. I really have a hard time. It's one of the things I'm doing this for. I have a hard time with my friends and family about it because, frankly, on one side, they don't want to hear about it. Nobody wants to hear about how bad you're grieving your spouse. And my therapist actually suggested that it's because he says the grief unconsciously is contagious. Nobody wants to catch the grief. I don't think they know how to process and help people. I've said 1,000 funerals and I was a priest, so I kind of got the hang of it after a while. But most people, when they come up to you and say they're sorry, and I'm not saying that I don't appreciate when people do this for me, but I also understand they are feeling bad. They're feeling bad because you're feeling bad, but they're mostly feeling bad. And I just went to a funeral last week. One of my brother's very good friends died. I knew him when I was in college and played video games together back in those days. And I went up to his family and I heard everybody saying how sorry they were about her loss and about the widow's loss and stuff like that. And I just think to myself, this is, are they saying this for her or are they saying it for themselves? Both. It's okay to be both. But I think a lot of people don't really understand how to deal with grieving people because they don't want to catch the grief. I think that is something my therapist told me, which I think is very accurate. And the second thing is they feel bad themselves. And listen, I have this old saying, everybody's the center of their own universe. Everybody's the center of their own universe. Which means that primarily, I'm just as guilty as anybody else. Guilt is not a right word. It's just what it is. As pertains to me, I should say, more than it pertains to anybody else, is as much as it pertains to anybody else, that I worry about myself more than I worry about other people, right? First, I guess it's true to an extent. I have worked my way out of some of that. Well, I do worry about myself. I am always very conscious of how what I do affects other people. And one of the things that I've been like that for a while, and I had to be as a priest and as a hypnotherapist and things. It's not about me. I had to remember that. I have to remember that a lot. But with Jen, taking care of Jen, I had to learn that lesson in a whole nother way. I miss being her caregiver. I miss her, of course, but I found so much purpose and meaning in taking care of her. Purpose and meaning I hadn't had in a long time. And I guess I'm grieving multiple things right now. And here I am getting a little bit emotional. I'm grieving her, losing the love of my life, who is just a fantastic person. I know everybody's spouse is a fantastic person. I heard the things that were said at this funeral, I would say about Jen, even though I knew this other guy. He was a great guy, but he wasn't like Jen. Why are all the same things being said about him that I would say about Jen? And maybe he was that way. I didn't see him for the last 10 years, but it was special. Everybody at the hospital knew who she was. Second thing I'm grieving is the loss of purpose. She gave me my purpose, and I don't have that right now. And I don't know what my purpose is supposed to be. It was the priesthood at one time in my life, and it was be a hypnotherapist, but she became my purpose even before she got sick. So I guess I understand why I was so sore the month that followed her death. And even now, I sit here and my legs really hurt. And I really haven't done much with them except for the elliptical. And I didn't even do that yesterday. I don't know why my legs hurt so much. And it's because when you go through grief, your body tenses up and you get sore. I'm grieving a lot right now. The third thing I'm grieving, and I'll make another video on this, and maybe I'm the only one that's ever going to watch it. Maybe I won't ever watch this myself. But the third thing I'm grieving is I never really come to terms with the horrible things she went through. And even she said this just 3 months ago, that she didn't know she was going to die. I didn't either. It just changed so fast. One of the things she told me she never came to grips with was losing her eye. She lost her right eye when the cancer was right here, and it was moving up into her eye socket, and they would take everything off. The bone here was all gone, and her sinuses were all gone. And how horrible things she went through. Grieving that too. I'm processing that too, because I didn't have a chance to process any of that stuff. Neither did she, because every day was something different. Some days were easy, and some days were just 8 hours at the hospital or 3 weeks at the hospital. So I feel really good talking about this on here, even if nobody ever sees it. I'm okay with that. Just documenting it. I write a journal every day, but it's only maybe 5 or 6 lines a day. If that, I have a 1-line-a-day journal. Maybe I write 5 lines instead of 1. But boy, it makes me feel good to talk about this. If it helps somebody else, that's awesome. I got my puppies. It's the 5th of July. I'm going to watch John Adams. I've been watching I had a John Adams marathon. It was an HBO series Tom Hanks did back in 2008 with Giamatti. And then I'm going to watch Hamilton, which Jennifer and I watched over 100 times, I bet. Probably 200 times. We watched it every day there for months and months. And before she died, I played it on the TV so she could hear it one more time. And I hope she's on the other side, waiting for me on the other side. Keep wondering.